Have you ever heard this claim that before 1940, pink represented masculinity and blue represented femininity? This sounds like a mind-blowing historical trivia. After all, in our perception, even restroom signs on walls use pink tones to indicate women and blue tones to indicate men. You probably rarely see them reversed. But let's look at these sources. Records from 1927 show that Best & Company in Manhattan and Marshall Field in Chicago, two department stores positioned pink as the color for boys. Before this, in 1918, the American trade journal Infants Department published an article titled Pink or Blue, which stated the generally accepted rule is pink for boys and blue for girls. The reason being pink is a more decided and stronger color, more suitable for boys, while blue is more delicate and dainty, more suitable for girls. Therefore, there has been this claim that pink representing girls and blue representing boys is a cultural phenomenon actually only emerged in recent decades, while color gender symbolism before 1940 was the opposite. This theory suggests the cause of this phenomenon was that since W2, many navies and air forces frequently use blue uniforms, thus giving blue a masculine stereotype. Right after W2 ended, propaganda encouraged women to return home, associating pink with needing protection. And pink, commercial marketing represented by Barbie, applied to girls' products, linked pink with femininity. If you are familiar with linguistics or semiotics, you'll know this theory that linguistic signs are initially arbitrary but later become conventional. Simply put, this means if we take the word symbol, apple, and the category of objects, this word represents the red, nearly round fruit that changes color when bitten and exposed, and put them together, we'll find their correspondence isn't inevitable. That is to say, if the symbol representing apple was initially designated as banana, then today the word for apple would be banana, and there'd be no problem, right? Or instead of apple, it could be people or sepo. Of course, some might say this doesn't apply to Chinese characters. Chinese characters are called pictographic. Their creation corresponds to the objects themselves, you're right, but the shape not being arbitrary doesn't mean the pronunciation isn't. Basically, except for onomatopoeia and sound-related characters, the pronunciation of non-phonetic Chinese characters is generally the character for horse looks like a horse, but it doesn't have to be pronounced ma. If it was originally pronounced nu, that would work too. The pronunciation of phonetic compounds essentially mostly inherits the pronunciation of simple characters like ma with slight variations. Moreover, saying the shape isn't arbitrary just means it's not that arbitrary. After all, there's not just one way to draw a horse. But I digress. If the correspondence between symbols and their meanings is arbitrary, then pink and blue, representing male or female from a semiotic perspective, has no inevitability whatsoever. They could switch at any time. So-called tradition might just be a hasty product of a few decades. Or is it? The actual research situation may be more common. The so-called pink-blue reversal theory originated from scholar Julie Poletti. Her original research only stated that pink for girls wasn't always the case, especially before 1940. Gender color associations weren't uniform in society. But since the 1980s, her research has been misunderstood and even evolved into an urban legend claiming that a complete reversal occurred around 1940. We can imagine when people learn that pink can represent boys, this counterintuitive trivia brings a satisfying feeling of revelation. When emphasizing that Best & Company in Manhattan and Marshall Field in Chicago positioned pink as the color for boys, they forget that the same article also mentioned during the same period, Macy's in Manhattan and Wanamaker's in Philadelphia still positioned pink as the color for girls. Subsequently, psychologist Marco Del Giudice searched linguistic corpora analyzing over 5 million books published between 1880 and 2000 and found most still followed the standard blue for boys and pink for girls, while opposite examples were almost completely absent. Physically, blue for boys and pink for girls usage can be found in the 1880s and remained consistent throughout the 20th century. Since data shows blue for boys in books has been mainstream since 1880, where did those claims about pink being powerful and blue being gentle come from? This involves differences between newspapers, magazines, and books. Del Giudice noticed between 1881 and 1930 in American newspapers and magazines, standard and reverse coding were roughly equally distributed. This phenomenon can be attributed to the commercial promotional nature of newspapers and magazines. Various department stores and clothing shops at that time actually produced lots of these what color corresponds to what gender promotional materials. It's not hard to imagine Merman's cloth-on-air products likely just created questions to match their existing answers. If my store sells pink women's clothing, I'd say pink suits women, and vice versa. Many researchers also propose that gendered color preferences may have a biological basis. Robert and Ling, in their 2007 study, found women indeed prefer reddish-purple hues, while men prefer blue-green hues. In the same experiment, they measured both genders' weighted preferences for red-green and blue-yellow contrast. Results showed women on the red-green axis gave significant positive weighting, meaning preference for red, while men showed negative weighting on this axis, meaning preference for cyan. Researchers propose humans have a universal preference for blue itself, because blue is thought to derive from humans' positive emotional connection to sky and clean water. And preference for blue also relates to the human visual system's physiological sensitivity to long wavelength spectrum. However, since women for a long period in history were responsible for gathering, evolution may have made women's visual systems better at distinguishing red fruits from green leaves to improve gathering efficiency. This may have created women's red spectral sensitivity. This theory is called the gatherer hypothesis. Hearing this, I wonder if you've thought of the lipstick shade issue. Some female friends can tell at a glance the color differences between their lipsticks, but their male friends think, aren't these colors all exactly the same? This might actually have scientific basis. Multiple experimental data show under equal test conditions, women, compared to men, show higher color discrimination, accuracy, and stability. In experiments with 170 colorblind-free adults aged 18 to 25, women's total error in color discrimination assessment was significantly less than men. Among 60 healthy youths aged 17 to 22, women's color matching experiments had significantly more correct matches than men and required significantly less time to complete tasks, with gender differences most significant in red-green segment. That is, gender differences in color discrimination are indeed modulated by lifestyle factors, but also have physiological factors. Clinical physiological experiments have found estrogen level fluctuations may affect retinal sensitivity, slightly enhancing women's spectral resolution for specific wavelengths. Despite individual differences, observations during natural menstrual cycles indeed show at estrogen peaks increased sensitivity in some cone pathways. Do you think gender really affects color preference? As a woman, when I was very young, I firmly believed I liked pink. One day I made a new friend who claimed to like green. I was shocked at the time. Other girls like me liked pink or red, yet she, also a girl, surprisingly liked green. As I grew older, I heard comments like, pink is childish, liking pink is princess syndrome. I gradually didn't dare to like pink, and then thought the blue sky seemed beautiful too. Later, one day, when I finally developed my own judgment about the world, realizing liking pink had nothing to do with shame, I suddenly hesitated. Did young me really like pink? Or was it because young me thought as a girl I should like pink? Although this video involves experimental statistics and some clinical physiological findings, color preference and gender symbols are essentially an interdisciplinary topic. Natural science pursues truth, but once human psychology is involved, things become complex. Various viewpoints deserve mutual discussion. It's hard to truly judge whether our preferences come from our true selves, from biological instinct, or from cultural tradition. Currently, there are indeed many researchers opposing the gatherer hypothesis. The earlier mentioned the period when newspapers and magazines had completely opposite meanings for pink and blue. Coexisting precisely proves how powerful commercial, economic, and cultural forces are. I hope everyone won't be easily swayed by others' voices. There's never been men should be like this, or women should be like that. Although in complex social culture, one's true self becomes hard to distinguish even for oneself, we can still try our best to find who we want to be. It doesn't have to be what men supposedly should be, nor what women supposedly should be, just who yourself should be. The examples mentioned above come from research and English-speaking contexts. I'm still searching for materials from Eastern contexts. If anyone knows about pink and blue, or red and blue color preferences, and their connection to gender in broader Eastern historical culture, please feel free to discuss in the comments. It's Deep Dove Insights. See you next time.